Welcome to SoCal Sports Reports. I can't believe it. 69th podcast. I am John Stelman, your host. We have Vince Morales, Jake Formansky in tonight. And we're going to talk significantly about the Ram-Saints game. And that was a big one, and that's going to take up most of the show, I would assume. We'll also talk a little bit about the Lakers. There's some stuff going on there that needs to be looked at. The Angels signed a closer, and Billy Epler calmly says, we're done. So they're going into the season with the roster they have now. I got a few comments on that. Anything that is going on with the Dodgers, I don't know if they seem to be pretty quiet. Machado and Harper haven't gone anywhere yet, so they're still waiting. Kings and Ducks don't really need hammer a nail into the coffin. Phil Mickelson, and with John gone, I'll just put out a couple of lines on Phil Mickelson and his tank job out at the Keno.
Or we can table that until John's back.
And I'm going to mention at the end, I don't know if you guys knew, I didn't, but I've heard of Gary Paskowitz at USC, passed away over the weekend. We'll touch on that for a second because he was a very influential guy. I think he had the first college actual website that was dedicated just to collegiate sports. So we talk about him for a couple of minutes. Let's get right to the Rams and let's get right to Vinny. What do you have for us?
Hey, the Rams are in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's all I know. There's a lot of nonsense and a lot of talk, and we were talking about it a little bit before. Yeah. You said that I hadn't heard it, that there's attorneys trying to
asking the commissioner to use his executive powers or whatever it is to play the last 41 minutes over, which is absolutely ludicrous. So.
Yeah, anytime you get lawyers involved in pretty much anything, it's ludicrous. And anytime you have fans, I mean, look, we talked about this outside, right?
Yeah.
That if you're a sports fan, you know what you're getting. Mm-hmm. You know what you're buying into. There are times when your team's going to break your heart, and there are times when your team's you're going to get your heart ripped out by the other team or by the officials or something. That's just how sports work. So if you're going to complain and piss and moan about it and get lawyers involved, you don't know what sports is all about. It sucks. It's terrible. But you get your own radio program and bitch about it, or post about it on Facebook or whatever. But attorneys and playing the last minute and 40 seconds of the game.
Before, I remember I think it was, not sure the year, the Kansas City St. Louis World Series, where Don Denkinger missed a call at first base and cost the series, cost St. Louis the series. I mean, it was a blatant error. I mean, it was an obvious error, but this happens in sports.
It happens, and Saint fans also need to remember too. They were up 13-0 in the first half too. So you got to sign a petition on that. Like, it just doesn't make. I mean,
I want to replay the first 13 minutes.
Just replay the whole game.
Yeah, because and again, it's one of those things where it's like you start slinging mud and saying, Rams fans, just sit quietly and know that cooler heads are going to prevail. Let everybody just bitch and moan and do their thing. But the thing is that okay, if you want to talk about it, let's talk about the 2 delays of game penalty that should have been called and would have stopped and sent back the Saints. There's a 24-shot, 24-second clock in basketball. You hear the buzzer, that's it. The whistle blows. The play is dead at the buzzer, right? All right? And so it's like, that's it. So if it's not snapped, it's very clear and it's very blatant. You're not looking, you don't have a guy with his clock and his...
Exactly.
It's so here, that's the thing, that could change the game. And the Saints fans also need to understand that the same thing that I was worried about with the Rams, not finishing in the red zone and dropping big... There was a drop pass in the end zone, right? They scored two field goals in the red zone. That game should have been 21-0.
Yeah.
Right? Should have been 21-0, and then we're not even talking about this. And the other thing, when they start talking about conspiracy theories, I say, well, then it backfired because the conspiracy is that this Vinovich guy, who's a referee, the Rams are 0-8 when that guy's been refereeing since 2012. Exactly. They're 0-2 against that referee. To New Orleans, That they should have known better, because all that does now is it puts it in those refs' heads. Like, maybe they're the totally upright guys, but now it's in their heads. Oh my God, this team's 0-8 when I ref. Maybe I am being too hard on them. So maybe they start to swallow their whistles, right? So the NFL was stupid to send that crew there to begin with.
Exactly.
Because if the tables were turned, I'd be sitting here bitching that the conspiracy was that the NFL sent referees out with a vendetta against the Rams.
That crew refereed the first game, the 45-35 game.
Yeah.
They did that. They refereed that game.
Two of the Rams' losses this year were with that crew. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to hear Saints fans. You got everything you wanted. You got a home game and the refereeing crew that you would have handpicked.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
right.
got everything.
Yeah.
You got everything. And so the fact that you think they won. You're silly. It's just silly.
Yeah, it won't go far.
Goff and Mahomes will be playing for these things 5-10 years down the road. The NFL doesn't need them to be, in the Super Bowl now. If there was ever a conspiracy, anybody want to talk about a conspiracy, is that they want the Brady and Breeze.
Sure,
that's the storyline that the NFL would have wanted. Yeah. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
How about a little bit on the game? I for one, shows you why I should be a fan and not a coach. I almost died when he kicked the field goal at 4th and a half a yard to go on the half-yard line. But hindsight, 50-50, if he'd gone for it and missed, hadn't made the touchdown, there would have been no overtime. Yeah. So that's why he's the coach and I'm sitting at home screaming at him. But Michael Thomas had 4 catches for 36, and first time around it was 12 catches for 211. So I think the change in the secondary made a difference. They were doing something right, and at least keeping him out of the area where we could have done damage.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and when you play a team twice too, I mean, you're going to make those adjustments. But I think as everyone's complaining about that call, I think you got to tip your cap to the Rams defense for making those adjustments and keeping Thomas and keeping where was Ingram and Kamara. They were really nobody. They weren't really being talked about besides that 33-yard run. Right. Other than that, I mean, it was the Rams defense was unreal.
They played well.
Yeah, and here's my thing is that if that was a legitimate play, right? We all know it was a terrible call. It was. Type of bad call. We all know that. If that call was not made, or it was a better play and the Rams hold and win that game, the Saints really have nobody to blame but themselves, right? That was a team that was out without Gurley, essentially, right?
Basically, yeah.
Without the best running back in the NFL. And trust me, the NFL doesn't want a team with one of their best stars going to the Super Bowl. That's silly. It's dumb. So, get over the conspiracy thing. And again, a drop pass in the end zone should have been a 7 off that first drive. They get the ball back on turnover. A terrible play by Gurley. Gurley was awful in the first half. He was awful in the first half. And if you can't beat the Rams without Gurley,
you're taking a huge portion of their offense out of it.
Absolutely. And they just Goff did enough things right. He looked great big plays. They just endured.
He got off to a slow start, but he sure picked it up. In the first half. Yeah, he played better as the game went on. Zerline, boy, I tell you what, that guy is lights out.
Those kicks were money.
They could have been 65, 70 yards.
Yeah.
You far back that
still would have made.
Went into almost went over the net.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the guy is just insane. They stop the clock, freeze him. That doesn't do any good. Not to a guy like that.
No, seasoned vet like that, no way.
No, he's. It was a good. I thought it was a very, 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 very entertaining, very good game. The Rams never led till it was over.
Yeah, but until it was over.
That's when you want to lead it. Be the lead.
The Hecker, the fake to throw that short of of the line to gain, because he did.
Yeah.
To a guy who, I don't know how, did he catch any passes this year? Was that his first pass?
I think it might have been
Reception?
first catch, reception, yeah.
Right? That ballsy. And then, again, the Saints fans are being distracted from a lot of other things, like Sean Payton throwing the ball, right? On first down, was it?
Yeah.
Right? On that, stopping the clock, when he should be burning the clock.
Yeah.
With the Rams having one timeout, too.
Yeah.
Run the ball 3 times, you get a first down. There's no pass interference, anything.
Right, exactly.
Bad coaching on his part.
Yeah, and there was a lot, and Breeze wasn't. He missed some guys.
He did.
And they didn't capitalize in the red zone. It was the same thing that I talked about with the Rams. They can't do that against the Saints. They have to capitalize. And whole different ball game if they go up 21-0, which it could easily have been. It easily could have been. I can't remember who was the tight end that dropped that pass in the end zone. I don't know how he dropped it. He just dropped it. And then they get the turnover, Gurley right through his hands, and they should have scored the touchdown there. It's 14-0. Then the Rams go out again because they can't hear, right? Yeah. The Saints fans are, it's like when your wife doesn't divorce you, right? Because of that one thing you did yesterday. Right. It's all the things you did up until she just said to you, I want a divorce. Right? It didn't just happen overnight. So the Saints lost, not just because of the one egregiously not called penalty. There was a lot of other things they did. It should have been.
They could have made it variance.
And that's the thing. Nobody's talking about that. They're not talking about that because they want to talk about how bad that the ref crew was. Yeah. It was a terrible call. There's no question about that.
Right.
But you're supposed to have the second best rush defense in the league, and you're up 3 points with 1:30, and you still let the Rams drive all the way down to the field to tie it.
Right.
Yeah, Goff showed me something in that drive. I mean, he pulled that was a Tom Brady type deal, taking your team down that far with
one timeout. Yeah, that was unbelievable.
He grew up on that. He grew up on that series. That was brilliant.
Yeah. And then they win the toss in overtime.
Yeah.
And turn it over.
The front four was nice for the Rams.
They were great.
They played very well. Yeah.
It's really. Who had a sack?
Donald was in the backfield all day.
Yep. He was. They didn't put a lot of heat on Breeze, but just enough at the right times.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, getting that pick in overtime, just crucial. Just critical.
Was that the guy that was on his back when he made the catch?
Yeah.
Amazing. That was amazing. He said, "I never thought that ball was gonna come down."
No.
The Pats and KC. I really would like to have seen KC win that game. Number one, I can't stand Brady and Belichick to start with. But I knew. I mean, the worst thing that happened one of the worst things happened to KC when they lost the toss in overtime. You just knew Brady was going to take those guys right down the field.
Complaining about the overtime rule, right? I don't think so. I mean, this is what people like to talk and bitch about. That just something that doesn't go right, and then you bitch about it, right? So in Kansas City, or people who are looking in on Kansas City, it's like, well, both teams should touch the ball in overtime. It's like, well, we know, but that rule is there. You know how to play it, right?
Yeah, right.
So you take a few more chances on defense, and the thing that just where I hope that I live long enough to see Brady and Belichick go off into the sunset. It feels like I'm going to be, 60 years old, and these guys, 65 years old, and these guys are still going to be coaching and playing. It's just, it's astonishing that you have this outrageously, extraordinary coach and quarterback, and absolutely players
Right.
surrounding them. I mean, it's all about system. Every time something breaks down when I'm watching the Pats, it's Belichick looking around going, who the F missed their assignment?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I schemed it right. Somebody did something wrong. And he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. I mean, he's an absolute genius. He has it. I mean, the stunts that he was throwing at Mahomes, unbelievable, right? Ridiculous. And again, young quarterback thinks he's going to step into the pocket, and he's stepping right into a stunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of stuff that he might try against Goff, but I think he's already, he's playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers. So now you saw what he did against Mahomes. He's not going to pull that same stuff. He's going to try something else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now
it's just a matter of who is coming to play. It's whether you're outstanding, because the Rams are Belichick and Brady enough, and that's the only reason they've lost any Super Bowls at all, is because they had a bunch of ordinary guys, an extraordinary coach, and extraordinary, quarterback. That's it. The only reason they lost is because they kind of nickel and dime guys, and they don't sign, like a Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, good example.
Right? I mean, what is going on? Why wouldn't you pay him? Well, because we can get somebody for half the price and fill him in, because I'm that good of a coach, and Brady's that good of a quarterback, and the line is good enough to keep him upright. Yep. It's astonishing, and I'll be glad when they're gone.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yes, I mean, they're like vampires. You got to stick a wooden stake through their hearts.
And this scary thing is, this is the worst Patriot. There's a lot of missing pieces, but it just goes to show you that it's just Brady and Belichick. They just know. I mean, they're chemistry together, and it's crazy. I mean, Brady just seems like Brady can play for another 10 years.
He was pretty.
He doesn't look. Like he's 40. I mean,
no.
He's still throwing the ball well. I mean, he's still hitting guys. And again, if you put him on his back, things change, right? It changes, right?
Right.
If you don't piss him off and you get him a little rattled, that you got a chance, right? The Giants twice, and the Eagles, right?
Yep.
But that's still a team that can come back from 20 whatever down, against Atlanta.
Yep. Yeah, the Rams are going to have to rush pretty good, disrupt him a bit, and throw him off balance, and he's gonna find somebody. But
how many guys can you name on that team? Not very many.
No, they don't have any superstars. They got some good solid players. Edelman and the other guy, Gronkowski. Good solid players, but no real superstars, I would say.
Gronkowski's the superstar, but he's not anywhere near what he used to be. You know, I can't name a receiver. Honest to God, I can't name one of their receivers. I can't. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Rex Burkhead's the only guy I can think of, and he's a running back.
Is this the first time a number 1 seed has not been in the Super Bowl? We got 2 number 2s in the Super Bowl. Has that ever happened before? I can't think of a. There's always been at least one number 1. I remember a Super Bowl with 2 number 2s.
No, I don't recall. It's probably been a while. I do know that the thing, if you're a gambler, is somebody posted something about the number of road games that the Super Bowl, the conference champions played over the last 6 years. 0, right?
Yeah.
They've been, so the fact that 2 home teams lost is astonishing enough, right?
Yeah.
Because last year, how many road games did the conference champions play? 0. How many did they play the year before that? 0. The year before that, 6 years running, 0 road games. That to me is astonishing. 2 road teams in the
underdogs.
Yeah.
2 underdog second seed road teams.
Yeah, if I'm not
I think I
mistaken.
saw.
Has it flipped then? It started, I think, as a pick'em, and then it went to the Patriots, and it went to the Rams, and then went to the Patriots. That thing's been flip flopping, and yeah, it's going to be interesting where that line ends up, where that smart money comes at the end, the wise guy money. Yeah, it's very, again, it's going to be in Atlanta, a little closer to the East Coast, an easier road trip for New England.
We got another Boston, L.A. championship, world championship game.
At least in this, it's, you don't delude yourself and say, you know what, well, maybe we can beat this team. The Rams can beat this team. The Rams are a better team than New England. I mean, the Dodgers just weren't. Of the class. It's just, you can't ever rule. They're zombies. They just keep coming back.
Yeah, they'll be ready. Sean McVay will have them ready. They were talking today too about this is the largest not discrepancy, but the ages between Belichick and McVay and the ages between Brady and Goff are the largest ever for a Super Bowl. What's Goff, 24 and 41 for Brady?
Yeah.
And 66 and 33 or 32, going to be 33. That's quite a gap. Let's shift it a little bit and talk about Lakers. There's a lot to talk about there. Klay Thompson lit it up last night for 44. Made his first 10 threes.
Either.
No.
I mean, he was launching from all over.
He almost, shot a 35-footer there. One of them, he was almost in his own side of the stripe. Lonzo out 4-6, but Rondo's supposed to come back Thursday. That's what the scandal is. That would definitely. That's good timing. Ball goes out and Rondo comes back. That's definitely going to help, because right now, if Rondo doesn't come back, who's going to bring up the ball? Who's going to handle him? Who's going to be the point guard? They don't have. What are you going to do? Ingram bring up the ball?
That's what happened. That's what they did against Golden State.
So that would
Josh
be,
Hart maybe a little bit. Brandon Ingram. This is what Pelinka and Magic, positionless basketball, right? You got several guys that can bring the ball up, and you just got to live with it and withstand the stuff that's coming on. There's not enough consistency, frankly, on this team. So I don't think it matters who's bringing up the ball. At least Lonzo added a little consistency about the pace and the tempo and the distribution of the ball, right? Ingram, it just becomes it's like Kobe 3.0, right?
Kobe-esque.
Right?
Yeah.
He's a ball stopper. The ball he deflates it. The ball just it's a lot of ISO when Ingram is coming up. And I think it's part of the reason why Luke wants him to bring the ball up. It's try and get the ball out of his hands at some point, right? You'll get it back, son. You'll get it back. But it's not the same way when it gets in his hands.
Yeah.
No.
Interested, Kuzma's been terrific, but again, there's always this consistency issue, and then there's the talk about when LeBron does come back, that's where he's been playing. He's been sort of playing the 4, and that's why he's getting so many minutes. He's being very aggressive. He's taking good shots. Kuzma needs to get his when LeBron's back. He needs to stay there and stay consistent. But again, I don't look at anybody on that team of any of the youth and say we can't afford to trade that guy.
I don't think there's any untouchable except LeBron, of course. But whatever it takes.
I mean, they're playing Mo Wagner now because they have to. They're playing Mikhailuk. They're playing lots of guys that
Zubac, he's playing.
with you can't. I mean, you can't have three centers. I mean, Chandler, McGee, and Zubats.
Do you think a deal happens at the trade deadline with the Lakers? For a bit like an Anthony Davis or something like that? Or
I don't think anything that big. I really don't think anything that big is gonna come through. I don't think the other teams know what the Lakers have, just the same way that the Lakers don't know what they have, right? At some point, and I think that's what's delayed LeBron not coming back. It's like, well, let this team find its feet. Let this team find its identity. Let this team sort of figure it out. But when they lose to crappy teams and then come up with a great road win like they did against OKC, I don't understand them. I many people do think it's Walton's fault. I don't. I think it's inconsistency.
They only lost to Houston by 4.
Yeah.
Down there after the OKC win. That was
they had a lead in that, and so some of that's coaching. Some of that was just, they just couldn't make it happen. And Harden, again,
he's out of control.
He's ridiculous. And again, it's one of those things where you watch and I feel like a Saints fan when I say that it's. I mean, it's impossible to not foul him. I mean, there was a point there where Josh Hart had his hands behind his back, and he still got fouled on the play. Not by Hart, but the fact that they're always starting to blow the whistle on him right as he's driving. They're ready. They're ready. They're poised.
Yeah,
it's like Pavlovian.
You think one day he'll top Kobe's 81?
Wow.
They were talking about that on this afternoon.
If he wants to.
Yeah,
I think he can make a run at it. Especially how kind of the game's being played now, and especially how he's been getting calls.
Especially the way Houston plays with just threes and run and threes and run. I mean, he should get plenty of shots. It shouldn't be a problem with that. Just a matter of he's going to shoot 25 or to 30, free throws.
Yeah, towards the end of the season, it doesn't feel like the kind of thing that would happen organically. The 81 didn't really happen organically. No. At some point, it was just like, yeah, he's hot. I'm getting the ball back to you're white hot. Just keep shooting it. It didn't feel, Harden seems like a guy who can be generous with the ball at times, and I think as long as they're still competing for a playoff spot, he's never going to just take over and just decide I'm going to go for 80 tonight. I think that his other statistics mean a lot to him as well. He's always got a lot of assists. He's always rebounding balls. But if it comes to the point where it's late in the season, it's an inconsequential game.
Could be, yeah.
He could easily.
Yeah. He's a pretty good player.
Especially if they keep putting, the refs keep putting him on the line 20, 25 times a game, right?
Yeah. There's 25 points right there,
yeah.
Right? 24, 23. To be their closer, $8.5 million, $2 million in incentives. Billy Elper says, I'm done. That's it. We like what we see. We like our roster. This is what we're taking to spring training, and this is what we're opening the season with. What's Jake think about that?
I think, honestly, I'm kind of glad with the Cody Allen deal just to get I know he had a bad year last year, but they need a closer. And I don't think Middleton was the guy. I think he would be more of like a 7-8 setup guy for Allen. But for Elper to say that he's done, I'm a little annoyed about it because we still need a couple more pieces in the bullpen, and starting pitching is still, question mark with Harvey.
You're not going to get Alvarez back till midseason or Middleton.
And, with the longer I mean, I think you got to maybe pick up the phone and start calling Philly and start calling New York and seeing what you can get back for Trout, because I think if, Harper or Machado sign for a big deal, Trout's gone. I think if they get anything over 320, I don't see the Angels trying to extend him. I don't think they're not going to have enough money to.
Yeah,
and now with these like little pieces here and there, it looks, cute, that I was like, they're building around him, but it's like they still, they're still picked to finish second, place on the wild card. Vegas has them.
Second wild card?
Second wild card.
Yeah, they better start make the playoffs next couple of years.
Yeah,
if they want any
just to
chance at all of keeping Trout. He wants to win.
He wants to win, and and it's just a shame with what they're doing, and I just don't, and I like Epler. He's built the farm system up from nothing.
He was the worst in baseball.
We got some trade pieces. The only thing that, maybe he has, but I just was kind of annoyed with, I felt like we weren't in the running for anything. Like a Sonny Gray or a Dallas Keuchel.
I'd like to have
just to
seen
see
Gray.
her name in there would be like, okay, at least we're kind of trying. Maybe they were, but I mean, for what Cincinnati got or what they had to give up for Sonny Gray was pretty much
I would
nothing.
like to have seen him. Right?
Yeah, I would take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
because I mean, this starting rotation, we've been saying it for 3-4 years. It's just boring.
Yeah,
and we just need. I mean, I'm not saying you go out and you get a number one guy, but I mean, it's just they're injury prone and they're basically AAA guys.
Well, it's the same old story. They're going to have to be healthy, or they're going to have no shot.
Yeah,
pitchers are. We don't need any Tommy Johns this year.
No Tommy Johns. I mean, they're coming back both from Labrum and Tommy John. So
Haney pitched a lot of innings last year, which is good, and Skaggs should be good
thing
this
is,
year.
Skaggs is injury prone as well. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. I kind of want to see what they're going to do with the local kid here, Griffin Canning. See if he's up with the big guys come March, and if he's up and he throws well, hopefully
wasn't he a UCLA guy?
Yeah, Santa Margarita UCLA guy. So hopefully, if he has a good spring, maybe have him as your 4 or 5 guy.
I'd love to get Keuchel, but I don't think I don't think they're even talking.
No.
About
yeah, I don't know that I believe Billy Epler when he says that they're done. Look, if you erase last year, the Cody Allen signing seems brilliant, right? Blown saves. It's the right pick a year ago. It's the right choice. I'm not convinced that the Angels have a closer in him. He's had what do you have? 20-something saves, but a 4.7 ERA.
Yeah.
I think you need to get a little more so that you have a little margin for error. Right? Look, he's got 140, 150 saves, right? His career, right? A lot of them over the last 5 years.
Yeah, last 5
but he's
years
not a young pup, right? And he had a bad year.
He had a bad year last year, yeah. Worst of his career.
And what's going to happen is he's going to come in, he's going to have the best year of his life, and then he'll leave the year after. That's just typical Angels.
Yeah, or he'd have another bad. It's more like the Angels.
Yeah.
Again, you got to have faith that Billy Epler's your guy, right? Okay, he can build a farm system. Okay, that's fine. Let's see it. Are those guys producing at the major league level yet? No, but it's better than they were. That cupboard was bare.
Yeah, he's
for
done
a lot
well
of years.
in 3 years.
And you also have to. There's a lot of you have to have a lot of optimism to think that the Angels are going to be much, much better this year. New coach, same GM, and a closer who had a 4.70 ERA last year. That's the big deal, the big signing.
Yeah.
Look, hope springs eternal.
That's right.
Everybody is optimistic and everything is roses during the hot stove league.
Everybody's
right?
0-0.
Yeah.
Right. But there's Kimbrel's relievers out there, right? Still,
There's a few. Yep.
Look, I like that where they're fitting Cody Allen in, but you can't just say, that's it. I'm done. This is the guy.
We'll see in
much what he
10
said.
Look at me. Drop the mic. No. I don't get that. You got to keep building it, keep figuring it out. Because the more you build it up without expending too much, the more pieces you have to make a big deal later or to attract a free agent down the road. Right? And if there's a potential to lose Trout, what are you building? What do you have there? If Trout says I'm done, what are you? I mean, if they get nothing for him,
which will probably happen,
free agent, and he's gone, and you get nothing for him. What's that?
Joe Adele. That's it.
See, that's the worry. That's the worry for me, and I've said this since we started doing the broadcasts. Is Billy Epler the horse you want to ride to the promised land? You know, so it's like if you're gonna, Social was a problem. I agree with that, right? Uh-huh. He probably lasted a year longer than he should have. You knew you weren't going to have a great season this year. It should have been handed over. This team, 2018 Angels should have been handed over to somebody else to kind of figure out if it's the manager that's the problem or the personnel or the injuries. It's really easy to say it's the injuries, but everybody has injuries.
That's right.
I'm not convinced. As an outsider looking in, I'm not convinced that Billy Epler is the guy. That he says, I signed my guy. I got my guy. I'm done.
We're done. He said he had to go to Artie Moreno and get Artie to stretch the budget in order to sign Allen.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, with Artie always used to be a big spender. He didn't care about a luxury tax. Now all of a sudden he's becoming kind of a penny pincher. It's like, why all of a sudden now? These are probably the two biggest years the Angels need to have, and we're worried about going over the luxury tax. Boston didn't really care about that. I mean, it's just
maybe he's saving money for Trout.
Then I would like him to kind of come out and say that. Because what I think is going to happen is I think they're going to wait till 2020 because Mike's a good guy, and he's going to go to Philly or he's going to go back to the East Coast, and we're going to get nothing for him. That's what keeps me up.
They say that. That's sign Trout. They have the money to do that. So they want to sign Harper this season and Trout after the 2020
And they can.
season.
I mean, they theoretically can.
Trout, Trout's got Eagle season tickets, and he lives, a mile and a half from Philly, so be perfect for him.
He's a New Jersey kid, right?
New Jersey kid, yeah.
So, he doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. But ugly, silly money, like $400 million can change your perspective. So, and if he thinks, wow, I can go back home and make $400 million, he just doesn't strike me as that guy, right? I think if the Angels make the right offer and show some goodwill in signing guys and building the team up, so that he's if things are equal and he feels like the team off of him to be one of the greats, which he already is, I think he stays. I think everything equal, he takes the same amount of money, same amount of years from the Angels over Philly. That's my sense.
He's a loyal guy. The Angels signed him. They drafted him. They signed him. They brought him up through the system, and he appreciates all that. They gave him the opportunity, and he's ran with it. But I think there is a bit of loyalty there, like you say. If the
but it goes. That's a two-way street. Right? Mm-hmm. The Angels can show some loyalty to him by taking a little pressure off of him, right? And somebody please ask Mike Trout what he thinks about his GM saying,
"Done.
I don't have any more money. I'm done," because Artie says He's a good guy, so he's a good soldier. He won't say anything, right?
Right.
You know, so that's not my job. My job is to play. You know, that's the kind of guy he is. But I worry that those are the types of things that that in the back of his mind start adding up against the Angels.
I just don't want to, like you said, I just don't want to see him go for nothing. When do you decide, all right, we can't sign him, let's get all the a couple of major leaguers and a bunch of, minor league prospects.
After this year?
Because he's got this year and next year. He's got 2020 is his last year.
2020, yeah. I would
He'd
do
be
it
free
after
agent
this
after
year.
2020.
There's not an option year.
Mm-mm.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. 2020 is his last year.
So,
yeah.
next winter, would you start the trade talks?
Mm-hmm.
I'd hate to see him go.
To start offering extension money, new contract money. Obviously, he's not. It's he has all the leverage, right?
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have to take it, but it certainly shows some good faith that they say, let's add a year. Let's restructure the contract. Let's add a year, and make you the highest paid outfielder in baseball.
I hope it's this before spring training.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why not try to I don't know, is there some collective bargaining thing where you can't
I think
change
you can
the
extend any
you
time
can.
through the contract.
Yeah.
He's at what, $35 million now, I think.
30, yeah.
Something in that range. Yeah, I would do that either before or during spring training.
I mean, and you can obviously do it, early next.
You might want to
going that
wait and
way.
see how this season plays out. Say he commits to 36 or 37 million, and they finish last. I mean,
he's no JD Martinez. He's no Eric Hosmer. So to look at the market last year and say, the owners slow played those free agents, there wasn't that one knock it out of the park. It's different this year. I mean, Trout has to be getting a sense of what these owners are doing.
yeah.
Because if there's any truth to, because we talked about it a little bit when we were talking about who's leaking this, it sort of behooves the owners to be,
the agents or
the agents. But the way that Machado's agent came out talking about that was like, I didn't leak that, right? It's the owners who were leaking. The low ball. Well, the thing is that might be right. And if Machado is only a $250 million guy, or Bryce Harper's only a $300 million guy, Trout's got to think about that a little bit. So if the Angels come in right now and say, we're going to make you a $50 million a year guy, sign on the dotted line.
Exactly.
Because if he says no to that, then you got to say, okay, man, well, I got a team to run, So
It doesn't help either, though, too, with the $87 million given to Pujols for 3 years.
no,
either.
that's hurt. That kills.
Yeah,
That's what just kills everything too.
Yeah.
But at some point, you have to be willing to pay the competitive balance tax. You just have to.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. How you work. You get up there, you bust your nut, and then you come back down a little bit, and then you try to get, so you get to that, you're paying the tax before you get that big hit, you come off of
Drop
it.
down, yeah.
The team you don't want to be is the Giants, who are
Yeah.
spending all of this money and they still suck,
Yeah, a bunch of old guys
right?
who can't play anymore.
You know it's bad when Giant fans are talking about the world titles they won in the past, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, at least in my lifetime, we got, 3. It's like, yeah, you suck now.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you're spending a lot of money to suck, too.
Longoria, he got a nice deal. What did he give him in return?
Oh, God. And then when they signed the McCutcheon thing,
Hudson, yeah. There's another one.
Just a lot of bad, and now they're talking about moving Bumgarner. bad.
All right, what about the Dodgers? Are they going to do anything else?
I have no idea.
before we
I
go
really
to-
have no idea. I've talked about this with friends, and Pollock would they need a righty bat. They need a righty stick, and everybody knows that. And so, so it's like, well, all right, the price for I heard the Starling Marte rumors, but that's a guy a couple years off a PED, suspension. He's like sort of a Jock Peterson, but a little bit better,
Right.
So, that would be a fine signing, because you get a guy who can hit lefties. Obviously Jock can't. And I think they're trying to move that. They want to see a Verdugo, but the thing is, they just, they got rid of their righty bats. Kemp,
right.
Kemp and Puig are,
Yep.
So not that. Handed stick in the lineup. Now you've got, Verdugo, who you're hoping becomes the guy you think he's going to be, right? But meanwhile, you're still having to play Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez in the outfield, and Bellinger. Right?
Yeah,
and Bellinger's, and then where do you hide Muncy? First
base.
First base, right? It's where he can do the least damage.
That's right.
Right? But then you put your best first baseman out in center field because he's a good athlete and because he's a decent center fielder. But he's a lefty. It's another lefty. Verdugo, lefty. Bellinger, lefty.
Yep.
Peterson, lefty. Right? Tomes. I'm sorry. What's his name? The kid who blew out his ACL. Tolles.
Lefty.
Another lefty. Who really aren't outfielders that you're playing out there because, again, it's positionless baseball. And they give us flexibility. I don't know. I don't
Then there
know.
was talks, too, about the Dodgers being back in on Manny Machado, moving him over to second.
Yeah, he won't do it.
No.
He won't do it. He won't do it. That guy's he's got a big ego. He won't do it. He won't do it. He played third. He might play third.
Put Turner at second.
Put Turner anywhere. Oh. Again, I'm telling you, I'm not convinced Seager's going to be all-star material when he comes back.
I'm waiting to see how he comes
he's got a
back.
torn rotator cuff and a back. He's had hip surgery. How long? I'm not convinced.
Is he supposed to be ready for opening day or a few weeks into the
I don't think so.
A few weeks
I
into
don't
the
think
season?
I don't think he's going to be playing too many.
You see videos of him hitting, but there's nothing. It's off a tee.
Look, the Dodgers have a lot of depth, so they don't really have to sign anybody. But a Marwin Gonzalez would be great.
That'd be all right.
You know, even Pollock, would be fine. Starling Marte, all those things, those would be fine, right? Get a righty stick in the lineup.
Yeah, they need that.
They absolutely need it, and I don't think they're done, but I haven't seen a lot of indication that I think they're going to wait. We're going to get to spring training, and they're going to find out what they got. But I know what they got. They got a kid in left field who hasn't played, more than X amount of games in the major leagues, who is still a prospect.
Right. That's right.
We put Kike or Taylor out there.
Yeah. All right. In honor of John, I will mention that Mickelson tanked. He led for 3 days down in La Quinta, had a 2-stroke lead going into the final round. He shot 4 rounds in the 60s, but ends up having problems on the back 9. Ends up losing, I think, by a stroke. So I just want to make sure John realizes we haven't forgot about him. I said at the start of the show, and I want to talk just a minute about the passing of Gary Paskowitz. Did you have any dealings with him?
No. Just the stuff that he did. He was way out in front of that. And following a team and sort of dedicating his talents to
I think
He led the way. I mean, he was a trailblazer in that regard.
I think We Are SC was 1998 when it.
I mean, it was before anybody even had a notion that was
Yeah.
something you could do.
And he later blossomed. He was on ESPN a bit and did some stuff on the Trojan pre and post game shows. He 52 years old. That's a crime when something like that happens to somebody so young. And he was just in the prime of his career. He was quite a. I think it's a big law. Like I said, I didn't know him, but I heard him a lot on radio.
Sure.
I just appreciated his, what he lent, what he offered, what he gave to us, and some of the back, the behind the scenes stuff, and real in depth, in depth insight.
He was a smart and passionate voice
Yeah.
for the Trojans,
He
and
was,
and about recruits, about who the next coach was going to be, whether somebody was staying or going, and it was all brand new. At that point, you just didn't know that could be done.
Well, there weren't even any websites.
There was nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing that. There were plenty of guys, but they were kind of like kooks in their basement, right?
Yeah.
Gary was a different guy altogether. He had the vision. I think he saw that something that he could dedicate 100% of his time to.
Yeah, the energy too.
And be passionate about.
Right.
People are going to recognize that, and people did, and they followed his lead, and they respected him, and not just respected and followed the lead, but copied and imitated, and
Right.
Yeah, I worked with with Tim Tessalone, and getting credentials or getting any inside information from that guy is like pulling teeth. So Gary worked his ass off to get that information and pass it along to other passionate Trojans, and there are plenty that have sprouted up around him, and they'll carry on that mantle. But yeah, it's a big loss.
Do you have any idea how many people he had working for him on that website?
God, I don't. I really don't.
I'm sure somebody's going to step up and keep that thing rolling.
Well, there's so many others, to sort of fill in, the Reign of Troy and others around the community, and it's because Gary was there first, right? He planted that flag.
So the Kings?
Oh God,
Nothing. Not much.
Yeah, I have one. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's my comment.
Not much to talk about there.
It's amazing, though, real quick, just on the Ducks, how you go through such a bad losing streak and you look in the paper and they're only a point away from the wild card.
Right.
That's just how bad the Western Conference is.
That's
right
what
now.
John was saying last week. Yeah, just weak.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like, let's just get to the All-Star break and regroup from there.
They brought some kids up that have played well.
Yeah, no, and they should have been up, start of the year. Or they were up at the start of the year, but, with the whole Seattle expansion, rules, you could lose, some of those guys, to the draft if they play a certain amount of games. But, I think the youth's been helping. Gibson's just been, standing on his head, the whole year. But, it's nice to see the young guys kind of stepping up and, this, young core, and it looks better. I mean, I like, and I just read that Corey Perry's, kind of closer, coming back, and it's like, don't really want him back.
Do we want him back?
I don't really,
He's going to slow him down.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think it's amazing how just the West this year just is not, up to par.
Yeah, it's
the Blackhawks are dreadful one. Oh man, it's bad because there's a point here where I talk with buddies of mine who are fans of the Kings, and it's like, God, let's just get a high draft pick. It's like, what's that kid, the Hughes, played in the juniors, lose for Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's but then they have a game where they look outstanding. Then another game they get 7 poured in on them by the Avalanche.
You get 4 goals, you better win.
Yeah.
You score 4 goals.
Yeah, well, they did. I think
That's not. That's too big of a mountain to
No,
climb.
it's.
Well, I think that's about it. If you guys don't have anything else,
No. I just I hope the Kings keep losing. So they get
Yeah.
the high draft.
pull an NBA and just tank it.
Tank.
Get that first round draft pick.
Yeah, that's why it's shocking sometimes that they'll come up, they'll bounce a good game in there every now and again, and then a clunker like that game against the Avs and just.
What are they going to do with Stevens? The new coach that replaced Stevens. Is he going to come back next year?
He's interim right now, so
really,
I don't. A lot of it depends on how the kids develop.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this was always going to be an interim job, and you'd find somebody to replace. I thought they pulled the trigger too soon on Stevens. I didn't think that.
What were they? 7, 8.
I don't think.
Weren't they?
Yeah, they weren't very. Yeah, they weren't very.
Wasn't
Yeah,
even
I mean, and they're still awful.
Yeah.
And that some of that was injuries, obviously, but some of that was poor decision making in the front office.
Yeah.
So.
The NHL free agency is going to be interesting, though.
The
NHL free agency with the coaches that are out there and the players that are going to be that for hopefully Ducks and the Kings can go out. Because there's two really good coaches out there that hopefully either
guy
the
from
Ducks
Chicago,
or Quenneville, yeah. So I know he wants to come back and coach. So that's going to be interesting.
He's looking for a contender that is Stanley Cup ready.
Yeah,
he wouldn't. I don't think he'd have any interest in coming out here.
Yeah.
Never know.
You know where the hockey players live? Manhattan Beach. He might be willing.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
It's where all those hockey guys live. Man, as much of roots as you can plant as a coach, right?
Yeah, well, he's done. He did well at Chicago until the roof caved in on him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I guess if that's it, we are out.
Good night. Nice socks.
Advertisement. Did they make you wear those? No, clean ones I had. Do you guys know if you are all set for spring training yet? No, I don't know about that. I gave them Dan's number and stuff. Told him kind of a rough estimate of who's people.
Yeah, that Thursday night game. I'll be out there Thursday.
Okay.
So that's I think where we're trying to get that game that night. But I'll
And I'm gonna text him tonight and call him tomorrow. Oh, Edgar Martinez got into the hall.
Yeah, you got it all.
Yeah.
And Rivera was unanimous.
Oh wow, I didn't even.
First unanimous.
Wow, that's interesting. I want to see where Bonds and where they ended the percentage. Oh, we had a little local celebrity come in on Saturday night.
Oh yeah.
In the drive-through, Josh Allen.
Oh.
Just sitting there, and they're like, "Hey, can you go outside and take orders in the drive?" I was like, "Yeah." This white Range Rover comes rolling in around 10:30 at night, and dude gets, I'm looking at him, I look at his girlfriend, look at him, look at his girlfriend. I'm like, "Hey, this guy looks familiar." And I'm like, he orders 3 double doubles with grilled onions and a fry. I'm like, "Hey, by chance, are you Josh Allen?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am." And I'm like, and I went to go shake his hand. I was like, "Hey, I meant to say, hey, great season this year, but for whatever reason, I just said, hey, good luck next year." And I'm just like, God, I'm like, dude, what an idiot. Guys are like, seriously? He's a big, holy cow. Because he doubt.
What's going on with baseball in San Clemente? When do you guys get?
February, 2.5 weeks away.
Really?
Yeah, it's our first game. They moved up the season this year. Just played in the J. Sarah tournament over the
So
weekend.
so you guys already planned?
No, it was winter ball games.
Okay.
Then they're going out to Palm Desert this weekend. And then, and then we start February 9th against Bishop Amat.
So how's that work? How many guys? The guys, all the varsity guys try out, and then
No, you try out as freshmen. I'll try out as freshmen and then just kind of see through the years if you're good enough to make JV and then varsity. But nowadays, I mean, you're not keeping as many, you're not really making any more cuts anymore just because it's just a different age. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, we just got the, well, he quit his sophomore year, but he was supposed to be the starting quarterback for San Clemente. Bags, and he's back now with us because he's not going to play basketball,
okay.
and he's
Throwing hard.
He's throwing hard, yeah. Has no idea where it's going, but he's throwing hard. No idea.
So how many
Pointed in
guys?
the right direction.
I know.
How many guys that were on your JV team will be on the varsity this year?
Gosh, we're losing a lot right now. Originally I had 19. I might be down to 15, 14, 15 maybe. But we'll see. JV's got a lot of pitchers, that's why. A lot of junior pitchers. They're gonna probably need innings.
I did what I did before. What's that? I stopped here and I stopped the record and I pushed the
Oh, good. Okay.
I pushed that button.